I am sitting in my office right now watching the afternoon sun spill across my desk. Emma is beside me laughing at something on her screen, and I feel this quiet peace I never thought possible 2 years ago. Back then, I believed my world had ended when Lauren walked away. I thought losing her meant losing everything. But that afternoon, everything was about to get complicated again. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo loaded slowly. Lauren, crying. Then another message. Christian, it is me. I know I do not have the right to reach out, but I need to talk to you. Please. Before I tell you how I got here and what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. If you have ever had your heart broken by someone who thought they could do better, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story has a twist you will not see coming. Trust me, you will want to hear how this ends. Now let me take you back to where it all started. I met Lauren at a coffee shop in Portland when I was 24 years old. It was one of those gray October mornings where the rain had just stopped and everything smelled like wet pavement and fresh espresso. I was sitting near the window working on a presentation for my job at a small marketing agency. Lauren rushed in juggling her laptop bag, a portfolio case, and an oversized cup of coffee. She did not see me. She did not see the chair leg either. The coffee went airborne, and my laptop took the hit. I should have been angry. That laptop had 3 weeks of work on it. But when she looked up at me with those wide green eyes, completely mortified, I just started laughing. She offered to pay for repairs for a new computer for my dry cleaning for therapy if I needed it. I told her the only payment I would accept was her phone number. She smiled, and that was it. That was the beginning of 4 years I thought would last forever. Lauren was a graphic designer, creative, spontaneous, full of energy. She could turn a napkin sketch into a brand identity in an afternoon. I loved watching her work, the way she bit her bottom lip when she was concentrating, how she would suddenly gasp and say she had figured it out. We fit together easily. Our weekends were hiking trips to Multnomah Falls, cooking disasters in my tiny kitchen, late-night drives with no destination. She knew I wanted to start my own business someday. She always said she believed in me, that I would do something amazing. We talked about marriage. Not in that vague someday sense, but in concrete terms. She wanted a small ceremony, maybe on the coast. I wanted her father to not hate me, which felt like a bigger challenge. We laughed about our future kids, what we would name them, whether they would inherit her creativity or my stubborn practicality. I saved for a ring. A simple one, nothing extravagant, but it took me 8 months to afford it. I kept it hidden in my sock drawer, waiting for the perfect moment. Then I met her family. Lauren grew up in San Francisco. Her father owned a commercial real estate empire. Her mother was a partner at a prestigious law firm. Their house was not a house. It was a statement. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay, modern art I did not understand, furniture that looked uncomfortable on purpose. The first dinner I attended there, I wore my best suit. It was not good enough. I could feel it in the way her father glanced at my off-the-rack jacket, the way her mother asked what I did, then nodded with that polite smile that meant she had already dismissed me. They never said I was not good enough. They did not have to. It was in every comment about stability, about long-term planning, about making smart choices. Her father talked about his business ventures, about taking calculated risks with safety nets. He would look at me when he said it. The message was clear. I was a risk without a net. Just an account manager at a small agency, no trust fund, no connections, no safety net. Lauren started changing after those visits. Not all at once. Little things first. She stopped wanting to go on our spontaneous road trips. She mentioned that maybe I should look for a position at a bigger firm somewhere with better benefits, more prestige. She started talking about 5-year plans and financial security. I tried to adapt. I looked into other jobs even though I hated the corporate ladder. I wanted her to be happy. I wanted her family to see I was serious about our future. But it was not enough. Bradley Thompson entered the picture at a family charity event. 34 years old, CEO of a tech startup that had already gone through 2 successful funding rounds. He drove a Tesla. He lived in a penthouse downtown. He wore watches that cost more than my car. Lauren mentioned him casually at first. Just someone her parents introduced her to someone doing interesting work in the tech space. Then she mentioned him again, and again. She started comparing never directly, but I heard it. Bradley had opened his first company at 28. Bradley was already thinking about his exit strategy. Bradley had just bought property in Napa. I tried not to be jealous. I tried to be supportive. But every mention of Bradley felt like a knife, reminding me I was not measuring up. The end came on a Friday night. Lauren asked me to meet her at an upscale restaurant downtown, the kind of place where they do not list prices on the menu. I thought she wanted to celebrate something. That was the beginning of 4 years I thought would last forever. Lauren was a graphic designer, creative, spontaneous, full of energy. She could turn a napkin sketch into a brand identity in an afternoon. I loved watching her work, the way she bit her bottom lip when she was concentrating, how she would suddenly gasp and say she had figured it out. We fit together easily. The restaurant noise faded into white static. I asked her what she meant. I asked if this was about Bradley. She nodded. She said her family thought he was a better match. She said she needed to think about her future, about stability, about the kind of life she wanted. I reminded her about our plans, about the ring I had saved for, about the 4 years we built together. She looked at me with tears in her eyes and said the words, "I will never forget. I love you, but love is not enough. Bradley can provide stability. He is already successful. You are still figuring things out." I sat there for another 10 minutes after she left. The waiter asked if I wanted to order. I said no. I walked home in the rain, still holding the flowers I had brought for her. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by photos of us. Every trip we took, every lazy Sunday morning, every promise we made. I pulled the ring from my drawer and stared at it until sunrise. She read the message, looked at the photo, and handed the phone back. "That is your ex." I nodded. Emma did not get angry or jealous. She just asked, "What do you want to do?" I did not know. Part of me wanted to delete the message and pretend it never came. Part of me was curious about what could possibly make Lauren reach out after 2 years of silence. Emma touched my hand. "It is your choice. But remember who you are now." That was all she said. No ultimatums, no jealousy, just trust. Photos at Michelin-starred restaurants with her family beaming in the background. Her mother posted a picture of a family dinner with Bradley sitting where I used to sit. The caption reading, "So grateful for this wonderful addition to our family." I deleted every app. I stopped checking my phone. I stopped checking anything. Work suffered. My boss called me in for a conversation about my performance. I apologized and promised to do better. But how do you focus on marketing campaigns when your entire future just evaporated? How do you care about client presentations when the person you plan to marry is posting engagement photos with someone else? Yes, they got engaged. 8 months after she left me, I found out from a mutual friend who thought I already knew. The ring Bradley gave her could have paid my rent for a year, maybe 2 years. I looked at it on her finger in the photos and felt nothing. I was so far past feeling that I had gone numb. Then one morning I woke up and saw myself in the bathroom mirror. I looked terrible. Hollow eyes, unwashed hair. I had lost 15 pounds without trying. I was disappearing, and the worst part was that Lauren was living her best life while I faded away. That was the moment something clicked. I could not live like this anymore. I could not let her rejection define the rest of my existence. But here is the thing. I did not want to get better to win her back. I did not want to prove anything to her family, or to Bradley, or even to Lauren. I wanted to prove it to myself. I wanted to know that I could build something real, something meaningful, something that mattered. If Lauren thought I was not ambitious enough, fine. I would show myself what I was actually capable of. I started researching. I spent every evening after work learning about entrepreneurship, digital marketing trends, business development. I took online courses. I filled notebooks with ideas. I stopped sleeping regular hours because my brain would not shut off. I drank too much coffee and ate too much takeout, but for the first time in months I felt alive. I felt like I had a purpose beyond surviving until tomorrow. 3 months later, I quit my job. I cashed out my small retirement account. I used every penny of my savings and launched a digital marketing agency focused on helping small businesses compete online. The first 3 months were brutal. I worked 16-hour days from my studio apartment. I ate ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches because that was what I could afford. I cold called potential clients until my voice went hoarse. Most said no. Some hung up. A few said maybe. Then I went to a networking event downtown. I almost skipped it because the ticket cost $50 I could barely spare. But something told me to go. That is where I met Emma. She was standing alone near the refreshment table, scrolling through her phone with a slight frown. I walked over to grab some terrible coffee, and she looked up. Is it just me, or are these events always 70% small talk and 30% people trying to sell you something? I laughed and said it was probably 80-20. We started talking. Emma was a freelance content strategist building her own client base after leaving an agency job she hated. We talked about the challenges of going solo, about imposter syndrome, about whether we were brave or just reckless. We did not talk about cars or apartments or bank accounts. Emma asked about my vision. She asked why I started my business, what problem I was trying to solve, what got me out of bed in the morning. We talked until the event staff started turning off lights. We exchanged numbers and promised to get coffee soon. That coffee turned into a collaboration. Emma needed help with digital strategy for one of her clients. I needed someone who understood content creation. We worked together on the project and it went perfectly. The client was thrilled. More importantly, I realized I had found someone who understood what I was trying to build. Emma did not care that I was working from a studio apartment. She showed up to our first working session with pizza and said, "Real entrepreneurs eat cheap and dream big." When I told her my craziest ideas for the business, she did not shut me down. She helped me figure out how to make them work. Over the next few months, Emma and I became inseparable. Professionally first, then personally. There was no dramatic moment where everything changed. It was gradual, comfortable, natural. We would finish a long work session and realize we had been talking for hours about everything except work. She made me laugh. She challenged my assumptions. She believed in what I was building because she saw the work I was putting in, not because of what it might become. 10 months after I started my business, things began to turn around. My client base grew from 3 to 25. Revenue increased by 300%. I hired 5 employees. Emma became my official business partner. We moved out of my apartment and into a small office space in downtown Portland. It had exposed brick, big windows, and a coffee maker that actually worked. It felt like progress. It felt like proof that I had made the right choice. Emma and I officially started dating around that same time. It happened naturally. We were celebrating landing our first major contract, sitting on the office floor with cheap champagne and paper cups, and she said, "I am proud of us." The way she said us made my heart skip. I kissed her. She kissed me back. Everything made sense in a way it never had with Lauren. Emma did not love me because of what I could provide. She loved me because of who I was. She had been there when I had nothing but a dream and a laptop. She had eaten ramen with me when that was all we could afford. She had worked until 3 in the morning, helping me prepare pitches because she believed in what we were building together. That word kept coming up. Together. With Lauren, I always felt like I was chasing her approval. With Emma, I felt like I had found my partner. That brings me back to the afternoon. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. 2 years had passed since Lauren left. I had not thought about her in months. My life was full. My business was thriving. Emma was sitting 5 feet away from me, humming along to music while she edited a campaign proposal. And suddenly, there was Lauren, crying in a photo, begging to talk to me. I stared at the message for a long time. Emma noticed. "Everything okay?" I showed her the screen. She read the message, looked at the photo, and handed the phone back. "That is your ex." I nodded. Emma did not get angry or jealous. She just asked, "What do you want to do?" I did not know. Part of me wanted to delete the message and pretend it never came. Part of me was curious about what could possibly make Lauren reach out after 2 years of silence. Emma touched my hand. "It is your choice. But remember who you are now." That was all she said. No ultimatums, no jealousy, just trust. When I told her my craziest ideas for the business, she did not shut me down. She helped me figure out how to make them work. Over the next few months, Emma and I became inseparable. Professionally first, then personally. There was no dramatic moment where everything changed. It was gradual, comfortable, natural. We would finish a long work session and realize we had been talking for hours about everything except work. She made me laugh. She challenged my assumptions. How he dictated what she wore, who she could see, where she could go. How he cared more about appearances than about her. How he had been unfaithful multiple times but expected her to stay because of their image as a power couple. How her family was disappointed because the perfect marriage they had orchestrated was crumbling. She cried and said she should never have left me. She said she thought about me all the time. She asked if I ever thought about us. That brings me back to the afternoon my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. 2 years had passed since Lauren left. I had not thought about her in months. My life was full. My business was thriving. Emma was sitting 5 feet away from me, humming along to music while she edited a campaign proposal. And suddenly, there was Lauren, crying in a photo, begging to talk to me. I stared at the message for a long time. Emma noticed. "Everything okay?" I showed her the screen. She said she had looked me up online. She had seen the articles about my company. She had seen the photos of Emma and me at a charity event. She had seen our success. And now she wanted to know if Emma was the reason I moved on so fast. I almost laughed. Fast I had spent a year in hell before I even started to heal. But I did not say that. I stayed calm. I told Lauren I moved on because she left me for someone better. I built my life from the pain she caused. She did not like that answer. Stay strong, stay true to yourself, and remember that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Her makeup could not quite hide the dark circles under her eyes. She looked thinner, fragile. She saw me and tried to smile. "Hi. I know I should have called first, but I needed to see you. Just 5 minutes, please." I did not want to make a scene in front of my employees. I led her to a private conference room and closed the door. She sat down and immediately started talking. She told me everything. About Bradley's affairs, about his emotional abuse, about how he had convinced her to sign a prenuptial agreement that left her with almost nothing if they divorced, about how her parents were ashamed of her for failing at the marriage they had arranged, about how she had lost herself trying to be the perfect wife to a man who saw her as a trophy. She cried. She said she had been so stupid. She said she had everything with me. Real love. A real partnership. And she threw it away for money and status and her family's approval. She said I was being cruel. I said I was being honest. She hung up again. I thought that was truly the end. Then 1 week later, my receptionist buzzed my office. "Christian, there is someone here to see you. She says it is important. Her name is Lauren." My stomach dropped. Emma was out meeting a client. I walked to the reception area and there she was. Lauren looked different. She wore an expensive designer outfit, but she looked exhausted. I wore my best shirt, brought flowers, smiled at the host like I belonged there. Lauren was already seated when I arrived. She looked beautiful. She also looked like she had been crying. I sat down. She did not touch her water. She did not touch the bread. She just stared at the table and said the words that shattered everything. "I need to be honest with you. My family introduced me to someone who can give me the life I deserve. I think we should end this." I could not breathe. She believed in me when I was sleeping on an air mattress in a tiny apartment eating ramen for dinner. Lauren was crying harder now. "But I loved you. I still love you." I shook my head. "You want me back now because I am successful. But that is not love, Lauren. That is regret. You are not in love with me. You are in love with the idea of what I have become." and you are running from a bad situation. I understand that, but I cannot be your solution. I stood up. Lauren looked up at me with desperate eyes. I forgive you for leaving. It hurt terribly, but it made me who I am today. And I am grateful for that. I walked to the door and opened it. But we are done. We have been done for 2 years. You need to figure out your own life just like I had to figure out mine. Lauren sat there for another moment, then slowly stood. She walked to the door, stopped, and looked back at me one last time. I think she hoped I would change my mind. I did not. I called security and asked them to escort her out politely. As I watched her leave, I felt something I had not expected. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just peace. I walked back to my office. Emma had returned and was waiting with 2 cups of coffee. She looked at me carefully. Are you okay? I sat down and took the coffee. I am better than okay. I am free. I told her everything that happened. Emma listened without interrupting. When I finished, she just smiled and said, "She has no idea what she lost." I smiled back, and I have no idea how I got so lucky to find you. 3 months passed. The business continued to grow. We opened a second location in Seattle. Emma and I moved into an apartment together, a place with big windows and a view of the mountains. We adopted a rescue dog named Cooper. We built a life that felt right. One afternoon, a mutual friend mentioned that Lauren had filed for divorce from Bradley. She was living with her parents again, trying to rebuild her life. I felt nothing when I heard it. No joy at her misfortune. No anger at what she put me through. Just neutral acknowledgement that her story was continuing somewhere separate from mine. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened. Lauren leaving me did not destroy me. It redirected me. I learned that real success is not about proving someone wrong. It is about proving yourself right. I learned that the people who believe in you when you have nothing are the ones worth keeping. And I learned that sometimes losing someone who did not value you makes room for someone who does. I do not hate Lauren. I actually feel grateful to her now. She set me free to become the person I was supposed to be. She made space in my life for Emma, for my business, for a future I never could have built if I was still trying to meet someone else's standards. The pain was real. That was the beginning of 4 years I thought would last forever. Lauren was a graphic designer. Creative, spontaneous, full of energy. She could turn a napkin sketch into a brand identity in an afternoon. I loved watching her work, the way she bit her bottom lip when she was concentrating, how she would suddenly gasp and say she had figured it out. We fit together easily. But for the first time in my life, I am not afraid of it, because I am with someone who chose me, not for what I have, but for who I am. And that makes all the difference. Have you ever been left by someone who thought they could do better only to find something better yourself? Drop your story in the comments. I would love to hear how you turned your pain into purpose. That was the beginning of 4 years I thought would last forever. Lauren was a graphic designer. Creative, spontaneous, full of energy. She could turn a napkin sketch into a brand identity in an afternoon. I loved watching her work, the way she bit her bottom lip when she was concentrating, how she would suddenly gasp and say she had figured it out. We fit together easily. Stay strong, stay true to yourself, and remember that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well.